Well, it's 7 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for social distancing still. County's down to 0, which is kind of nice for COVID calls. Anyway, we have an addition to the agenda under 4.3, the Kinsmen Club. And is there any other additions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion to accept it as amended? Paul? Okay, thank you. Any discussion on Paul's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. And it is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to the minutes of the previous meeting of May 25th. Any questions, errors, omissions? If not, somebody wish to talk to George Lee, thank you. Any discussion on George Lee's motion? Hearing none, we're going to call the question. And it is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to delegations. So we have a new member of our staff, so I'll let Kim introduce our new member.
So as you all know, we went through the recruitment process for a new peace officer. We interviewed Gabby, and she was good enough to accept our offer and started on June 1st. And actually I'll let Gabby give you a little bit of background on herself and how she ended up here. And
sure. Did you guys want me to stand up or
Doesn't matter, you're
sit down? Or? Okay. Well, my name is Gabby. I came from Spruce Grove, was my last peace officer job before I had came here. I've been a peace officer for about 5 years, and the last year I worked for Children's Services, just working with vulnerable youth and that kind of thing. And I had applied to this position about a year ago. The fellow who had the position has now decided to leave, so I was offered the job, and yeah, here I am, and I'm excited to be here.
Okay, any questions for?
so on that, as council knows, you're going to see it tonight on the agenda. We know the transition between bylaw officer to peace officer. We have to do the appointment with the province and that. So Gabby's got all of the paperwork ready to go. So we're just waiting on the pair test that has to be scheduled, and we'll get the paperwork off. So from tomorrow, she'll be able to work his capacity as a bylaw enforcement officer. She's been doing a ton of paperwork on the backside. We have a bunch of files open already, but she'll be able to do the bylaw work starting tomorrow, and then the appointment as soon as we can get it. And as we know, sometimes it can take a month to 2 months for the province to get those in place.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and welcome to the team, and hopefully you can stay as long as Nancy has, and make it, the community, partly yours as much as you can. And we appreciate that you live in another municipality a little ways away, but that doesn't mean you can't always move and relocate to our fine community. But anyway, thank you very much, and again, welcome to our team.
Thank you very much.
And again, transition hopefully will flow good between the 3 positions, from what you had to what you're doing until we get you the rest of it done. So,
Thank you.
okay, great. Any questions? If not, thank you very much. You're welcome to stay, or you're welcome to head home if you like.
Said most people stay.
I can sit.
No, we're joking.
Okay. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Gabby.
Have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.
Appreciate it. See you tomorrow.
See you.
Okay, well, the next one we have is Nancy is retiring from our community and our team, and she's moving on to greener grasses, I guess. And I'm not sure if there's any greener grass than what we have here in our own community, but yeah.
Bigger lake.
Yeah, bigger lake, but I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not, a bad thing for you, Nancy. But anyway, Kim did make me some cheat notes here.
They're nice.
Nancy started with us on August 16th of 2004, so in just shortly a short of 17 years. She started off as an administrative assistant, and then in 2007 she moved to utility clerk and assisted in the development, and then 2015 she went to the development officer and the utility clerk. And the two roles kind of reversed there. And for that last day will be on the, she'll be 45 days short of the 17 years, and Nancy's relocating to Black Lake for her retirement, which is kind of sad because you know, she's quite a few years younger than me, and I'm not quite sure how someone that young can retire. She must have won the lottery. She hasn't told any of us that she has won the lottery, but no, anyway, we have a little gift for you, Nancy. It's not much, but there's a little tiny plaque. You probably ordered it, but
We didn't let her see it.
nice little plaque, and then a gift certificate for you.
Thank you.
And again, you know, we really appreciate all the years that you have put up with our organization and our community, and you know, I mean, the Birch family's been part of our community forever. Really, you know, as long as I've been alive, there's been a Birch family member somewhere in our community, so we've been really blessed to have had you and Stu work for us, and anyway, and you'll be deeply missed, and hopefully you will have a great opportunity to sit back and enjoy the weather up there. And I guess if you get really lonely, you can always come back down here and visit with your brothers.
Vulcan will always be home.
That's good, that's good. But anyway, you know,
Okay,
thanks a
thank you.
million, thanks again. And again, you're more than welcome to stay.
She mentioned her first task was to go up there and review the county of Wetaskiwit's land use bylaws.
Around a few things.
Anyway, thanks a million for all.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you so much.
Okay, moving on to a sadder note, now we have the Kinsmen Club. They have been part of our community for as long as we can remember again too, so, and they gave us a demonstration or a look at what they had planned for the one area. Now they have progressed to a second location that they would like to give us. So Matt, and the floor is yours. And
Thank you, Council and Mayor. Kevin and I come representing the Kinsmen Club of Vulcan. We were present here the last time to talk about phase 1, which was Kin Games. So we'll go through the disc golf real quick, and then we'll do a recap of how Kin Games is coming along, and a couple of our requests, and then also some new things that have kind of come out of nowhere in the last couple of days for some opportunity for some further expansions and additions that we talked about before. So I'll burn through this slide real quick since you guys are so generous to slide us into the agenda today. So this is just going to be a real quick recap, some Cole's notes on the project itself, and that's for disc golf. If anybody doesn't know what disc golf is, this is a replica, a small version of what we plan to put out for what you call a hole. Okay, this is a disc catcher. So you throw a Frisbee several times in a hole and make it all the way up to the hole, put it into the disc catcher, and that would be finishing the hole up. Each Frisbee would have, just like clubs for golf, so you'd have like a driver, you'd have a mid-range, you'd have a putter, and they all have different thicknesses and different weights. Disc golf is growing quite fast in trend. Like we said before, there's Airdrie, Okotoks, there's one I just found out today, there's one in Claresholm. So we'll kind of be, I guess, maybe on a cutting edge of being one of the first few communities that invest into a project like this. It's going to be good for the locals, good for all ages, good for tourists. And so we'll go on to this presentation. So Kevin has been working with Vulcan County Health and Wellness on the signage for both parks. So it'll look something like this. There may be an image of a digital version of the park itself in the sign, but basically it's going to have the Kin logo, what the park's about, and then all the partners. So the Town of Vulcan logo will be a part of the signage. The Vulcan County Health and Wellness will be a part of the signage. I'll talk about something in a minute, but we just received another investment, I guess, from another partner that we'll put on the phase 1 sign. Move on here. So it's a place where social circles can start up leagues on Friday nights. This is a 3D layout. So as you can see in the bottom right hand corner, the little square, that's the ball diamond, that's the T-ball diamond. And that's the roadway in the subdivision. With the park and the gray rectangle up at the top there, that's the playground. So the land here is showing cutout around the duplex and the house on the corner, so you got a little bit of the, in between the 17-suiter, and then you got the land out in the far back. That's the piece of property that's waiting for investment for our seniors assistance or seniors housing moving along. Place where tourists spend a few hours instead of a few minutes. 9-hole disc golf. This will be kind of like our opening place. This is where you would start out. Just a graphic of that. Place where we teach our kids about personal bests. Place where we don't just cut the grass for no reason. Place for moms and dads to play while the kids are at the park. So here's another picture of the disc catcher again. This will be the replica. That's obviously a full-size unit, but that would be kind of a perspective of what it would look like in the grass. We plan to put a little bit of perimeter in the grass on the bottom so that we don't have to whippersnip around them. The mower will be able to kind of roll by, no problem. There'll be a couple of picnic areas. The plan right now is that you'd have something that's maybe a little bit more developed in and around that T-ball diamond area. So we might have a fire pit there with a couple of picnic tables. And then the plan is that we would have an approach or like a tee-off area, which will be a concrete pad. And on each one of those where you would run and you'd throw your Frisbee, on the anchor end of that you'd have one picnic table. So the plan is we would have 9 picnic tables, 1 at each hole. So if you're waiting for people, or if people are walking their dogs and nobody's playing and they want to sit down, it's also kind of multi-use for being kind of like a picnic green space as well. Location, this is an overhead view of the park and that land. I think we're all pretty familiar with the area we're talking about. Again, a bird's eye view with some small little drops there of where our tee-off and our holes will be. You'll get a little bit more perspective in the coming slides. Budget, so the budget was roughly around that $5,000 mark for getting our disc catchers. So I think they came in around 500, 550. There is 9 signs that we'll put up. We'll put a number and maybe a name so people can talk about it. You know, Kevin's come up with some pretty clever names that we'll put on each one just to kind of keep them independent. And then the concrete tee-off areas, we roughed those out at around that $400, $500 mark because that's where almost each one of the concrete pads that the town has also already created for us for phase 1. That's where most of those came out at. So I think we'll be pretty close. So overall, the plan is, besides labor, the plan is that the full investment will come from outside of the town of Vulcan's coffers to pay for that. So hopefully we can get some labor included, but I also know that the public works guys have been hard at it for several weeks now trying to do several projects. So moving along, here's the layout. So Kevin, Bonnie, and I, we walked the course. So the Kinsmen went and planted the flags in the ground, trying to be considerate of neighbors, danger zones of getting a Frisbee in the back of the head, playground, the T-ball diamond, the residents to the left, the 17-suiter, and then also when we go to the far land, we have to be a little cautious of the helipad, the highway, and the neighboring housing where Hole 6 kind of comes around. So we think we've got a pretty good layout, but also to keep the course competitive. And the idea with the first green space is that if kids want to start getting involved in it, they can do kind of a quick round. So they would be able to jump back in and come back on 8 and 9. So they'd be able to do 1, 2, 3, 8, and 9 instead of going all the way out into the field and doing a full 9. Graphic of what hole number 1 would look like with the map so that people kind of have an idea of what direction they're heading. Hole number 2, that's going to the back berm behind the playground. Hole number 3 is going to be going all the way along the Carriganas on top of the back berm. Hole number 4 is kind of a crossroads of the golf or the disc golf, the course coming back in and then us going out. So this is where you're going to be going out into the field behind by the hospital and also coming back in. So we tried to keep holes away from it so that there would only be throwing going away from it and not having to worry about people also trying to throw into it. Hole number 5 is going to be the first one going all the way across towards the hospital. Hole number 6 is bombing all the way down along the hospital, right? Along the hospital,
Closer to the road.
yeah. So this one will be the long shot, I believe. It's about 420 feet, so it'll give people some space. We opened up the course so that people could really try and throw a Frisbee as far as they could without it going into the hospital or going into neighbors. Hole 7 will be cutting back towards the Caragana that we had going there. And then 8 was through, and then 9 is back in the Kinsmen Park where the playgrounds are. So the requests are, so the Kinsmen Club and Recreation Department are submitting grants for the funds towards this project. So we've applied for a couple of more grants. We request that the town of Vulcan join us as a partner in this community initiative. We would kindly ask for the installation only of 9 poles and 9 concrete pads, and we would kindly ask for a walkway to be cleared through the bush line of the Caraganas. And besides the labor, the material costs, supply costs would all be covered by the Kinsmen Club Vulcan. I think I got a couple more there. Kin Games Park. So we'll do a quick update here. So Kin Games Park, we have four games. We have the horseshoes, the beanbags, the ladder ball, and the washer toss. Currently, as of tomorrow, we'll have all 3 fire pits completed to be picked up and our beanbag toss. That's the only thing that's remaining. So we're hoping by Thursday evening we'll have a work party and we'll have the rest of the park installed by hopefully the weekend. We've got a couple things to finish up on the backboards of the horseshoe pits. And the partners on this guy, we were approached by the Cadets, so we're still waiting to hear kind of how they would all fall into the process of the different phases. And then we also found out today that the Richardson Pioneer Farmers Tournament that they put on each year would like to earmark their funds towards our outdoor stage that we had planned on putting in the first phase. And so we're waiting to kind of iron out whether or not we plan to do that for the fall or we plan to do that for the spring of next year, possibly let wood prices come down, maybe get a little bit more time to finalize, electricity and where we're going to put it. So we do have a partner in the stage process, and so if the stage moved forward, and we'll work with administration on putting together a proposal for the stage in the future, we would likely just request a base of concrete or sonotubes or something to create a foundation for the stage to be put in. And this is the stage update. So again, these are some graphics. So as you can see, the first front corners of the stage are built to kind of replicate the original stone statue that was put up way back when the Kinsmen Park was put in. We've spoke with a generous volunteer in the community that's really good at rock walls, and he has suggested that he would be interested to help us create a second monument right beside that one, so the old and the new, and then the stage will replicate both of those as front corners. The stage again will be used for outdoor entertainment, wedding ceremonies, or people's reunions, or whatever you want to do about the stage, but hopefully we'll have some power. And then lastly, as a few of us have already started using the first phase park, bathrooms have been a really big question mark, and so I did bring it to administration today. I know it's really short notice for you guys. I'm not looking for any kind of a commitment or answer, but the whole plan would be that we, as a temporary solution for this summer, it's $1,200 for us to get 2 porta potties put up at Kin Games and at the 9-disc golf course. It would cover weekly cleanings and supply updates, and we have some partners that are involved in sharing that cost, but I think that it would be a good, while we get all of our ducks in a row for how we're going to have bathroom facilities out there, would be a good cause. So we would ask that administration maybe help us out and partner up to get those porta potties out there. So a lot of information, but to recap, we would request that the Public Works help us drill 9 holes to pop the disc catchers into, frame up and install the concrete, take the backhoe and sculpt out a big arch out of the Caragana so we can get through, and be a future partner in the stage and the porta potties for this summer. So, okay, thank you.
Great.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Actually, one quick question.
Yep.
What is full size of that? That's a smaller guy.
So full size is gonna be like 24 to 30 inch diameter.
All the way around this top.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So the theory is to get the Frisbee into the top of the catcher.
Yeah, in between the two rows. So to hit the chains are meant to kind of absorb, because these things are coming in real fast, so the chains are meant to absorb it, and the whole goal would be to try and keep it in the basket.
Okay.
Yep. And then, yeah, but to your point, it would be like larger than the top of a trash can per diameter. Wow. Yeah. Like Kevin was saying, he watched a guy yesterday like throw a 50-yard shot.
That's a pro though. I think you have to be, if you're doing it 2 to 3 years, you should be able to get upwards to 400 feet. That's if you practice that consistently.
And keep in mind, these are like the Frisbees are, I don't know if you're allowed to pass things around right now with COVID, but like they're not like a Frisbee, like they're heavy, they're way heavier, and they're built and they have specific weights. So you'd have a whole putter, iron, and driver in the weight for a person, and then you'd have all the different kinds of Frisbees that, like inside of this peg is like 50 different, like 30 different Frisbees, and each one is gonna be for a specific curve, a straight, a right curve. So as you learn to be better at playing the game, you would start to purchase based on your habits. I'm always curving it left. You might start to buy one that you're gonna start to straighten that out. So, do we have any other questions?
Okay,
On any
well,
of it?
thank you very much.
Perfect,
You're
thank you.
farther on the agenda, you're welcome to stay, or you
I'll jump in on mine.
can. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming, and thank you for
Thank you for having us.
phase one as far as it is, and that's great to see, so.
Have a good night.
Yeah, thanks again.
Thanks, fellas.
I don't think-
Yeah, you can read through this one.
Okay. Moving on to correspondence, we have the annual report for 2020 Oldman Regional Services Commission.
The entire report is here in paper copy. It's yeah, quite a large document, so,
They also have it on their website now.
okay.
94 pages to be exact.
So we decided to not make the agenda that heavy with.
Okay, so if you're interested in looking at it, you can go online, or if you wanna come look at the paper copy, it's here, so. Okay, moving on to SouthGrow. Any questions on the document monthly report? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to, unfortunately, we're getting lots of these letters, and I know that Lorna questioned how much longer it would be before we would, if we were interested in submitting a letter, but there's getting to be more and more municipalities, towns and villages and MDs and counties submitting letters and of support for the,
And surprisingly, with the amount of correspondence that's coming in about this, they still haven't made a statement to the municipalities about it, other than it's an ongoing process, so.
and that,
But the report is finished, I believe.
and I don't believe the EMA or RMA have done their final report either, I don't believe.
I can't remember what I read the last time.
Like, I read the one of them that they had, but I don't know if that was the last, kick at the cat, or whether they still were doing some more. But anyway, Jason Schneider does sit on that committee, and so does, Tammy, yeah, so, but there's these 8, I guess it is, letters of support. Some of them are, you know, they're very similar, but yet everyone's a little different, so.
I would maybe suggest that if by the end of June we haven't heard anything, maybe we need to consider. But that's up to what other people think too. I'm hoping that by the end of June they would have let us know one way or the other.
And again, sorry, if there's anything on it, you know, each one have sent their letters to different groups, and some of them haven't sent them to anybody, you know, they're, you know, you kind of sit back and say you thought that they would, you know, send it to your MLA and the minister and the, you know, the premier, but some of them, you know, send them to everybody, and some send them to very few, so. So I guess at the next meeting, maybe we should contemplate, if we haven't heard much, to maybe coming up with a,
What we can do is, obviously they keep coming in, so we'll put it on the correspondence and then possibly draft a motion.
if that's,
Yeah, if council would like that, I'll have a pre-canned motion for you to draft a letter of support for the RCMP.
Or you can pre-draft it.
Well, even if it wasn't a letter of support, maybe just a letter of inquiry,
Right.
like what is happening?
okay, is there anything else on any of those 3 items for correspondence? If not, can we have somebody file? All right. I'll lose it for information. Any discussion on Paul's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. And it's carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to the bylaw, which is in policy, which is the ATCO gas franchise agreement, sorry.
So, as council's aware, you gave first reading January 25th to the franchise agreement. It was sent to the Alberta Utilities Commission. They've approved it as it was drafted, so I included the timeline of where we're at, and you can see it was a 2-page timeline to get this done. We are now on the final 2, which would be giving second and third reading, and then having administration and the mayor execute the final agreement. So, unless there's any questions on this, you're free to give it second and third reading this evening if you would like.
Nothing has changed in it since.
They did change the dates of the effective date of the agreement to June from the original one that we had, because we had anticipated that we would get it sooner so we had a date in April.
Oh, I see, okay.
Okay, what's your thoughts, Lyle?
I'll make the motion to go for second reading.
Okay, so Lyle moves second reading. Any discussion on Lyle's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. And it's carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to, are we interested in giving it third reading tonight?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, George Lee. Any question on George Lee's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. And it is carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to policy 6.2.
Policy 812.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, number 6.2, yeah, policy 812, yeah, thank you.
Caught me in a panic, that wasn't the one I put
Oh,
on the
no,
agenda.
that's number 6.2, the finger on it, but anyway, it's fairly straightforward. It has to do with the council remuneration.
So, as council's aware, the committee came and presented to you. You've had a chance to review the policy. All the wording changes are in red. Anything that's to be deleted has the lines through it. In this one, it's very straightforward, cleaning up some verbiage from he, she to they, and the only one of interest is on the technology side, to provide an appropriate electronic device, and that will lead to a further conversation as we get closer to the election. There has been discussion on whether the town supplies piece of equipment, or if we're at a point where an allowance is given, and then councillors can buy their own devices. So that will probably come up closer to the election as something that may be amended in this further, but I have to do a little bit more research to put that together for you.
Yeah, some municipalities do that, just give an allowance. The only bad thing about that is that if you have a type of software that works better on one brand or like one style, whether it's, you know, one or the other, and, you know, sometimes you have a bit of a conflict of it working properly. Sometimes not, and sometimes we've found that some of them, you know, but,
The big one from an IT standpoint as well, with having that electronic device being your own and being paid for an allowance, you also have to sign off that if for some reason we end up having a FOIP request, you could have your own personal equipment brought in for that purpose. So the same thing is what you do when you click on the accept when we put that email on your phone. So just whatever, you know, these, if you're using them for, and that's the discussion. If you have a device that you're paid for with an allowance, you're more likely to use it during the week and for your committee meetings, those sort of things, as opposed to a specific machine that you're only bringing once every 2 weeks to council. So there's pros and cons to both sides. So I'll do some more research on it and hopefully be able to bring that back to you really quickly. And the only other was the addition of requiring council members to travel together. That's always been an expectation, but the committee asked that it be put actually properly into the policy, so we did that. And the last was the question on the claims submitted, because of course when staff make an expense claim, it's expected to be done within 30 days of the incurring the expense, but you guys can only do expense claims quarterly, so there was conversation about matching that. So what we did is we changed on the other side from the expense claims to be 90 days, so that it works to the quarterly. So, and the bottom was amalgamating these two into the same, because they're both essentially the same thing. That was the wording changes that they requested.
I would move that we accept this.
okay, well, okay, thank you. Laura moves that the policy A12 be accepted. As amended, yeah. Any questions on, or discussions on Laura's motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. And it is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to policy PE 15.
So again, this is was a result of the feedback from the remuneration committee. Very straightforward. There's simplifying wording, taking, you know, on the actual expenses for vehicle rather than listing gas, oil, all of that. They felt that wasn't needed. So, and verbiage, the meals gratuity to 18%. Again, that's this will be in this policy. So if you're going to amend that, that's not something you do in the rates and fees bylaw. So that would have to be, and that was the suggested rate was 18%. So you guys as council can have that conversation. The other one, again, being the committee question, if council would consider changing to include one beverage or refreshment. That currently is worded like that, so if you would like to change it, we'll just have to amend the wording. If you would like to leave it the same, you don't have to do anything at all. The other is on the hosting side of things, where possible, hosting plans should be submitted to council for prior approval to establish the appropriate expense limits. So we try to do that anyway, but now the wording is in there for, and then changing from 30 days to 90 days.
So the part that says, committee question if council would consider changing to include beverage or refreshment, or one, and then above it says alcoholic beverages are not reimbursable. I was always under the impression you could have a coffee or a pop or whatever.
Yeah,
You can, but the theory of it is, the recommendation is that sometimes it's as expensive to have a pop as it is to have alcoholic beverage. And so should we allow one beverage, period, whether it's a pop or a coffee or a tea or a beer or whichever. But, you know, I mean, I know some municipalities have gotten caught with that. But I think that was the general philosophy or thought by some members of the committee, is that what's the difference? Because a pop is sometimes more expensive or as expensive as a.
I would think it wouldn't be the cost of it so much as the perception.
Yes. And again, you know, it was just,
Yeah.
it was a kind of a questioned. There was no real strong recommendation one way or the other, but because it was questioned, we felt that our administration felt too that we should at least,
so the question was asked in their report, so when I amended the policy, I just highlighted exactly what is in the policy now, like, and that's the way it was before, it was up on beverages are not reimbursable, for council to have that conversation of whether you would like to include that or not, an alcoholic beverage, because on the other side of this, this is also affects our staff as well, because this is our policy on expense and claims.
And I guess, are you having it before your meeting, or are you having it after your meeting? You know,
Or during.
yeah, well, we're during, yeah, you don't know what's in here, do you?
Straight vodka.
Yeah.
but again, you know, it was just addressed, so, it was just put in there because it was addressed, so.
So for the purposes of this, if you're happy with all the rest of the changes and don't know about that one, you could approve this as presented, or if you would like to change things in here, like the gratuity, like any of the other wording, you could accept this as amended, but you need to provide the feedback on how you would like to amend that.
I'll make the motion as presented.
That's with the gratuity of 18%, not changing the alcoholic beverages, and with the additional wording for appropriate expense limits on hosting.
Okay. Any discussion on Michelle's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. And it's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to current business, the bylaw enforcement officer's appointment.
Obviously, Gabby has started on June 1st. She's got a very good start. She's on getting files put together. She's got the car ready to go. If council would like to appoint her as bylaw enforcement, that means she can actually start referring to herself as a bylaw enforcement officer and actually interacting with the public on some of the complaints that she's received. So, the bylaw that we have in place, 1403-12, requires that council do the appointment of bylaw enforcement officer through motion of council. So,
I'll make a motion to apply.
Okay, all moves that we,
And we'll do the same tomorrow.
yeah, we'll do it tomorrow. Okay, if it passes, any discussion on Paul's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. And it's carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to the next one, which is donation to Birdies for Kids, Rainbow Literacy.
So, council's had an opportunity to read the report. Hopefully you're able to go online and see what this charity does. They basically, nonprofits register on the other side of that, so any donation that comes in for the Birdies for Kids gets put into the Shaw charity, and then they match it up to 50%. So on the $10,000 that they requested from the town, it would ensure that they would get $15,000 by putting it through the charity. And from our side, we can register online and make payment that route. They did, Rainbow Literacy has done this for the last 3 years with Vulcan County, and been successful with their grant application every time, so they're requesting that from us this year as well.
Okay, Lauren moves it. Okay, any discussion on Lauren's motion?
Did they have the Shaw Classic last year?
I'm
I
not
don't think-
sure
I
if
don't
they
think
did, I
so.
think
Maybe they, I'm not sure if they did or not, I don't think so.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what happened there.
Okay, anyway, any other discussion?
I do know that the county funding did go through the charity last year,
No,
and
okay.
was matched, so,
So they're doing it with the funding from the county and with us?
yes.
Perfect.
Okay, so we'll, if there's no more discussion, we'll call the question. It's carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to capital equipment replacement of 2005 skid steer.
So Stu's put the presentation together. I'm sure you've all had a chance to read through it. One thing that he's found is the skid steer. When we originally did it, we thought, and this goes back to my time as foreman, we thought that we were taking guesses on how long pieces of equipment would last, what their resale value would be, those sort of things. And we found that the skid steer to the operational costs tend to escalate after the first 10 years, and the resale drops off after 15 to next to nothing. So Stu is asking if council would consider moving the replacement cycle from 25 years down to 15, because that would allow for maximizing the trade-in value, but also keeping the maintenance costs down long term on the machines. He looked at, as you all know, he didn't replace a pickup in 2020, and he didn't replace a mower in 2019. And so we're in pretty decent financial shape within our reserve to do this. He is still planning on replacing a 72-inch mower at the end of this year, if possible. But this wouldn't affect that. So based on the 15-year cycle, our 2005 machine would have been due for a replacement in 2020. He came to me and asked, I said I would bring it to council for looking at this. And really what it would take is council, every year you look at the 25-year replacement plan, update it. This is no different than our pickups being every second year, our mowers being every second year. It's just finding out the useful life piece of equipment.
So it was stolen in 2005?
2003 is when we lost the original one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you choose it. 4.
Oh.
So we lost the original one.
Yeah, we had a thief come in and steal the skid steer and a whole pile of equipment.
They loaded our trailer up.
Well, whose trailer? The fire
It
department's.
was the fire department's trailer. They loaded up a trailer and then drove the skid steer on and then loaded it with the equipment and.
But then they had loaded the town's trailer and truck, hooked onto the truck wouldn't start.
And drove out of our yard, and I felt kind of foolish about it because I had just finished arranging our shop, so all of our pumps were here, and all of this, they just went in like a shopping list and just took everything they wanted.
And then they stopped out in front of Gary McKinnon's and boomed it down.
Yeah.
And he thought that somebody else, the trucker went by and saw it, and they thought that they had just cleaned his driveway type thing, and were
Yeah.
booming it down, and they're on there.
The only thing that fell off the trailer in the yard was the post hole over that Stu and I built the year before. Of all the things, everything
Anyway,
else.
that's.
But anyway, that's the backstory on our skid steer. It was replaced through insurance after it was stolen, and this machine has had some fairly extensive motor work done in the last in the last 15 years, and it's starting to get tired with the with the use that it has. We never had a full-time skid steer before that one that was stolen, so we'd always rented them before. So now that we're using it, you know, the last 15 years, the workload on it is increased substantially because we know what we can do with it. It's a very useful tool for getting in and out of parks, doing irrigation, landscaping. You've all seen it at the pool.
Pretty hard.
It is. So, Stu acknowledges that this was not brought up as any kind of capital planning or any of that, so that's why he's asking that we amend the long-term 25 capital plan ongoing, so that this is a 15-year replacement, and that if council feels that we're in a good position with the reserves, that we can move ahead with tendering it and see what kind of prices we could get with to purchase a new piece right now. You can see the MSRP for them right now is between 76 and 86,000. We put 70 in the capital reserve for replacement, and that's why he looking at trade-in value between 9 and 15. He feels it's the optimal time to try to get that before the cost of the machine go up or our resale value goes down a whole bunch.
He seems to have thought it out pretty well.
Okay, Bob?
So I guess I'm assuming Stu then is probably reviewing the whole list on how long things are gonna last and might have to adjust things accordingly.
Yeah, and that was our conversation, is we took a guess on a lot of that bigger equipment, like our street sweeper, because those ones are huge capital items. You know, when we're talking replacement of a grader or a street sweeper in the area of $300,000, we had to really, and we started with 25 years with everything, and we worked backwards. We put everything in the list at 25 years, and then knew that we were only going to get 15 years was the optimal time for a pickup truck, or 12 years, or and like our mowers being 12 years on those as well. We could get a good resale value out of them. They weren't houred out, so that's why we had 3 mowers. We were replacing them every 2 years. So the oldest mower was being, you know, traded in a decent amount of time, and so this is kind of a work in progress with this, because that 25-year equipment replacement plan has only been around for 6 years, Tom? 5?
Yeah,
5 or 6 years, so it's kind of a work. We never had that before. Yeah, when I was public works foreman, we basically waited till a piece of equipment died and then asked council to replace it.
I'll make the motion that administration prepare tender documents for the new skid steer.
Okay, thank you, George Lee. Any discussion on George Lee's motion? Okay, and now we'll call the question. It's carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to commercial development incentive application PL 12.21.05.
So this is for option 5 of the policy PL 12 that you guys just reviewed. This is for the $500 for advertising, for setting up for a new business that's coming to the community. Obviously, the restaurant on Main Street has new ownership in there, and they took out their business license on April 28th, and they made application for this grant to help them with some advertising and getting started.
And hopefully they'll stay.
I've heard the food is good.
Okay,
So would they have known about this, or when they came in to make their,
Because they are renting, they were in with the owner because there was some compliance issues that they needed to deal with that the new owner was dealing with. So that's how Nancy had talked to them about this. The MPC is aware that the new owners were working on finishing out some previous development permit on that property. So.
Bob?
I'll make the motion that we approve the
discussion on Lyle's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. And it's carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to the commercial development incentive application 12.21.04.
And this one's for the new business, that took out a business license in May 14th for travel agency assistance. And they are also in a rental space. And hopefully this will help them get started as well.
I'll move that one.
Okay, Lauren moved it. Any discussion on Lorna's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. It's carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to the Lions Community Pool Concession.
So the concession building and the operations of the concession have been conducted for the last several years from the Rise and Shine group. They're interested in continuing, but of course they're only able to work during a set amount of hours during the week. And so this was taken to the Recreation Committee with quite a bit of discussion, and the Rec Committee has recommended that council review this and possibly put it out to tender to see if there's anybody, any interest in the community to run at the same hours as the pool is open. Being the most concern is the weekends and evenings that are the busiest at the pool. So.
And what do we do if no one comes forward?
If no one comes forward, Bonnie has put scenario 2 in there where the Rise and Shine possibly, and that's where they're asking for that council input on there, because there was a proposal of the Rise and Shine group doing it from Monday to Friday, and then the town hiring some staff to try to keep it open the rest of and purchasing some inventory and keeping it open on the weekends and evenings if possible. I know through the years we've tried several different scenarios with that place. We've had contractors in, some that have been successful, some that haven't. For Rise and Shine, I know that they're pretty limited with their staff and the hours that they can work. So.
And I think they have a lot of other jobs that they're doing too.
They do contracting and things as well. So I believe that the Rec Committee had basically asked council to consider how you'd like to move forward. Being the first year and the expectations for the pool, just trying to manage those. You know, if we're gonna have a lot of people there, is there going to be the expectation that the concession be open on weekends?
Any thoughts or questions, Don?
I live by there. I always thought that it was a missed opportunity on having it open, while the pool's open. And like I say, this year, we're getting, at least I'm hearing lots of good feedback on how things are looking. Business side of thing, I would think it would be good to maybe put it out for tender if someone wants to take that opportunity to be open while the pool's open and take advantage of it.
And putting it out to tender, council does have through their purchasing and tendering policy, any service provision you can put out for tender, and it's put out for a 1-year basis and then renewed annually if you want to continue. So there is no harm in putting it out for tender to see if there's somebody in the community that would like to. The Rise and Shine acknowledged that they could only work certain hours, so they understood if with the new facility, council is to make a move to have it open longer hours.
think that was the concession or the, majority of the meeting too was, put it up for tender.
Yeah, that was the recommendation from the committee, was to, council put it to tender, or discuss what other options that you guys as council would like to, so.
I don't know, all three options have been done and
Tried.
tried.
Yeah.
Have been tried and passed, and, unfortunately, or fortunately,
I think Lloyd Colburn was the last one to fully contract the whole thing, wasn't
I believe so.
he? And that
But
was,
back then, we even had more, they even had to look after the two washrooms and other things like that, because
there
our
was
staff.
slot machines outside.
So there was quite a bit of other things. I mean, we did look at even just turning it into, opening it up to, you know, pop machines, vending machines, type of things inside the area instead of having a staff member there. So, I mean, we have, as a municipality, have tried every option that's, I think, out there.
Well, maybe now that COVID has been upon us and people are looking at things quite differently, perhaps somebody would be quite willing to give it a shot.
The only sad thing is that this should have been done back in
Yes,
March or April, not in
when it's open.
June 15th, and, you know, but I'm not sure that this is the first year that we've seen this, that they couldn't open on the weekends.
Was it open on the weekends?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think this has been going on for years, and it's just that,
Now the new facilities here,
yeah.
the question got asked is, do we want to be open on the weekends?
Yeah,
I would move that we put it out for tender and see what. And it can't be very long tender.
No. We'll try to turn around as quickly as
Yeah.
possible.
okay, so Lord has a motion to tender see if we can find somebody to offer longer hours. Okay, any discussion on Laura's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. And it is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to the Lions Club Community Grant Opening.
So Bonnie's put together just a quick overview of what the grand opening looks like. The main request on this is that they would like to waive the fees for the swimming that day. So that's the motion to council, and there is asking for approval for the mayor to say some words and that sort of thing, but you guys all know, Tom doesn't need permission from council to speak on behalf of the town, so that really, you don't need a formal motion for that. The only thing you'd need a formal motion for the rest of council is if you actually wanted to get paid to attend. It's as a formal function.
Do we have to wear uniforms?
Well,
If you want to make it a formal event,
if you want to, sure, that'd be great.
so right now the request
I
is to
hope
attend.
it's not
Yeah.
35.
Bonnie did mention, as it states in there, it's, that there will be seating. If you respond to her that you're gonna be in attendance, then there will be seating for you. So that's but that's a side note to the actual request, the request being to waive the swimming fees for that day.
Do you have an idea of any time that it would?
Yes.
The time is in the invitation.
Schedule is
It's
right
further
there.
down, yeah.
There's a
Oh,
parade.
it's-
12 p.m. and, yeah.
So there's a little bit of an open house before, St. Canada, ribbon cutting, and then the pool opens for free administration. Lions Club are gonna do their barbecue and Canada Day cupcakes.
Or actually starts at 10?
And Bonnie's already making, she's making preparations for if the restrictions haven't been lifted, that we'll go in groups of 40. Because we're allowed 2 groups of 20 at a time, so people will go through in groups of 40. joked that,
What Tom has to do is schedule.
right, well, we joked that we could do the grand opening, and for everybody to go into the pool, they could go in groups of 40, and the incentive to get out of the pool is that you can get a burger from the Lions Club if you get out.
You can't eat before.
But, yeah, so you can't eat before you swim, but anyway, they're trying to put contingencies in place for whatever the restrictions are on that day. The hope is that they're open, but
Well, it sure looks good. I think it was 69% today,
yeah.
so we just need 1 more percent, another 40,000 people to get the jab.
I did the math on it, we need 10,000 people a day to do it.
So I said by Friday.
Got it.
By Friday.
So is this our formal invitation to go?
It is.
So can we just tell you we're going and you can tell Warren?
I have a pad of paper, so yes.
Okay, so,
Is that a yes?
do you have a comment or?
I was just gonna make the motion
Okay.
that council approves waiving swim fees for July 1st.
Okay. So moves that we waive the swimming pool fees for the day. Any question on Lyle's or discussion on Lyle's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Is carried unanimously. Okay, now going back to, sorry.
Can I write you all down for attendance?
I can.
I don't know.
I may not be able to.
You said you weren't?
Michelle.
I won't be able to.
I'm away.
Oh, you're away.
Yeah.
I won't be either, because I think we'll be open with everything going on.
Okay. Tom keeps joking, but he's not.
I'm not coming.
No, I won't. Yes, I will be
You
there.
will be there?
Yep,
Okay.
it's all good.
Okay, Lyle, did you?
I'm not sure, I can't commit right
That's 15 days away now.
now. I know.
You've sold all the houses in town, what are you gonna be doing?
Selling it again.
Well, he's got 3 that I couldn't get off right on, so.
Okay, well, if you can let them know.
Yeah, just let me know for sure.
And George Lee, you said you were,
Yes.
Paul?
Paul,
And sorry, when I made this, I
No, that's
didn't
all right.
even, I was looking at the June 30th, I wasn't looking at the July 1st, so.
It's my
no,
anniversary
not
that
about
day.
me. We're gonna-
Actually, speaking of which, do you want councillors in full dress?
Well, I think what George Lee kind of alluded to too is the weather. The weather is super hot, might not be very comfortable,
A little
but yeah.
tough to jump in the pool in those things too, if you,
Well,
that's what you
gotta
choose, if that's what you choose.
Or if you wear it, then don't have to jump in the pool.
But you have to go down the slide, yeah.
Yeah. It would look nice if you could.
Okay.
I was planning on wearing mine, and back on, where Bonnie said that I was asked I was asked by Wayne Erickson about 6 times. Matter of fact, he was quite persistent saying that I should be the MC.
MC.
And so I did say to him I would MC, so it's a bit of a privilege to have been asked by him, and he was very persistent. He probably phoned every morning for at least a week because I never gave an answer. So.
Kept calling you weren't going.
Yeah. But anyway, no, so that's where that part came from. So I did say, not as mayor, but as just personally, I would definitely MC and.
Well, I don't think it will kill us to wear them for,
I-
is it about an hour? If that?
If that.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
daylight today, though?
Pardon me?
Is it daylight today?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you could just put it on just before you go out.
Go
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
do the opening ceremony,
Yeah.
and then there's a change room there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These two.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on this one, Tom? Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, moving on to 7.8, which is the porch fest.
So with the lifting restrictions and the, obviously not being able to do it last year, the request from Porch Fest this year, they're gonna try to support businesses downtown, get some traffic down there, rather than to people's homes where people might not be as comfortable with inviting groups into the backyards. So, their request is to block off 2 parking spots in 3 locations on Main Street, not to interrupt with the businesses in front of those locations, but allowing for Porch Fest to allow people to be downtown, support the businesses, that sort of thing. So the request to council is to approve the closure of 6, the temporary closure of 6 parking stalls on Main Street from 8 o'clock to 7 p.m. on Saturday.
Do they think that's gonna be enough? Like, is there gonna be more than 3 groups?
That's what they, I don't know if they, Tom, I don't know if they have some for the lot that's for sale down there and some other spots
Oh,
there
okay.
as
No,
well.
I just, when I looked at it.
This
I
was
thought
just
that-
what they requested for parking stalls, so.
Which is great, I appreciate that, and I know that they have done a bit of work on it prior to this, so I was just curious if they thought that we might need to.
Yeah, at this point, it's just a request for the 6.
I know Lorna had a, sorry,
Yeah, there was a couple of times, it was,
yeah, on your porch, but I mean, this is a different
yeah.
thought or philosophy on venue, but
And a lot of people were just walking,
We did.
yeah, during those times that I noticed.
yeah.
This might be, I was wondering if the 2 spots were so that there's a sort of stage and gives them a bit of a clarity.
Yeah, and I haven't seen a bunch of the plans, and I know that they're still kind of trying to work around restrictions of what it looks like again. It's the end of June, so.
Anyhow, I would move that we approve this temporary closure.
I'll do it.
Oh, sorry,
You had your hand up, Lon.
Oh, okay, so Lorna moves that we approve the temporary closure of 6 parking spaces on Main Street for the Saturday, June 26th, from 8 AM to 7 PM. Any discussion on Lorna's motion? Any comments? Hearing none, we'll call the question. And is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to the Kinsman's presentation on the Frisbee golf.
This is the report that was provided, Bonnie put together for the Frisbee golf, and based on what you as council had received information on this on the first phase 1 proposal, because they expanded it from Birch Park out into the lands that are held for the senior housing. We felt that we should bring it back to council for your formal approval. These things, they're opposed, they go in the ground, and the Kinsmen have openly said that if a senior complex comes in and wants to build a facility there, it's as simple as popping these things out and relocating them. So they're really, what they're trying to do is get people out and using our open spaces and that. So this formal side of this proposal and the motion the Kinsman is looking for is for permission to use that land. It's been reviewed by Public Works and from a development side, and there's no concerns for the use of the property.
so they would use the whole width of that space?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all. Any discussion? You know, it was kind of a last minute throw together to come to council. I mean, they, you know, they've done a lot of work on trying to get more activities for different age groups, so.
And a big thank you, Kinsman.
Well, you know, we're very fortunate to meet the Kinsmen Club, the Lions Club, the Lionettes, cadets, and you know, the Elks over the years. If it wasn't for all of them, our parks would be pretty sad. They're one of the major pushers to see recreation in our community, so.
On a related note, the Kinsman game area that they had on Friday night, there was half a dozen adults and about 14 kids, us included, that used that, had pizza and were able to physical distance and still let all the kids play, it's a really good facility. The only concern that came up, will come up in the next, but is, they mentioned the washrooms. So I did wanna do some background on there. A few years ago, council did have a request to put washrooms on Palliser land, and that never, happened. And what they did is, we put, these porta potty, we put one in Birch Park, at that little ball diamond for the little guys when they were there. And it didn't happen last year, but it happened, in 2018. It wasn't there in 2019, so, council has in the past for things like that, have allowed, porta potties to be put in parks as long as they're the ones that are able to move until something more permanent can be put in place. So, from being there, that was the only, from a parent standpoint and from a town administration standpoint, the facility was great until I realized that all the little boys were peeing behind the trees. And you know, we're all farm kids and that's just what you do, but from a town perspective and, you know, when the request came in, it was a pretty valid, because I walked a little girl all the way to the ball diamonds to use the outhouse over there, so.
And I think that it's something that we might have overlooked to a degree on a couple of our parks anyway. I mean, I know that, you know, when it comes up about, you know, the old tennis park ones, but there was a washroom facility there at one time, but, you know, so, you know, it's something that maybe we should be more cognizant of is where the facilities are and location compared to where our parks are at. I mean, we might say, oh, well, yeah, there's one over at the ball diamond, over at the high school, but I mean, that's a block away, and for me to walk a block, it's like walking 40 miles, so.
Well, I'll just tell you, when a 3-year-old tells you it's time to go, it's,
You don't have much time.
it limits the distance that you travel.
But so, I mean, I know that.
And now during COVID, if you go to the city, you have to have your whole day planned out.
On where the washroom will be.
Yeah.
So anyway, Paul has made this motion. It's, any other discussion on it?
Just a question with the seniors place we're supposed to go. Is that grass or is that cultivated?
That's grass.
It's grass. After, it used to be cropped, and the year that we took ownership of it, we leveled it out and threw grass seed in. It's not irrigated or anything, so.
Might be good quality grass.
Yeah, it's just, it's a parks blend that we put in. The fact that it's not irrigated, it dies out pretty quick, so.
So is that something that maybe, like if this gets developed, we're gonna wanna look at is putting in a big sprinkler or something?
It maybe, probably not a full sprinkler system, but probably, we could look at, I believe there's a 2-inch water line that runs back there that we
Used to
tap
be.
on to put out some, park irrigation, like one of, you know, the
Is
traveling
there for
ones.
the trees and stuff there, you know?
Yeah, when they first developed that area, this, right here, there used to be a 2-inch water line that ran in there for irrigating those trees, to establish them. Now, I don't know what kind of shape it is or whether we could access it, but it starts down here, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could find something, if long-term the goal was to get
Better quality.
better quality grass out there, but.
Do we have to worry about it being level or not for people playing on it?
It's not that bad. It's not bad, really. I mean,
Yeah, lots of people are out there already walking their dogs, and
I know, and
there's a cow trail across to the hospital.
Matthew made that comment that the three of them did walk that area and kind of flagged out where they thought they would put it. And, I mean, being that, you know, he's one of the residents that live along there and potentially could get a Frisbee in their backyard, I guess they're, you know, cognizant of the residents that live there, to try and prevent and.
I guess if he puts up a big black screen or whatever behind you, like said, we'll know.
Yeah, and I honestly didn't realize that, you know, the Frisbees were that quality of too. I mean, you know, most of us have played with a Frisbee, and you can even tell the difference between quality of a really cheap Frisbee and a really good one, but these ones here kind of sound like they're weighted, and that's the first time I've ever heard about it, a weighted Frisbee, so it sounds kind of neat, and I know that they're really working part to get like Wolf's Hardware and UFA if they wanna sell some of these game items, to sell them locally so that you can buy them locally if you want.
That's neat.
I think it's neat. I mean, and I mean, again, other than the pad for where you start off, the tee box, I guess you could call it, and the bench, I mean, other than that, the rest, like Kim says, you can just pull the flat pole out and
Move it somewhere else.
move it somewhere else. The tee box or with the picnic table on is a little different.
That would be a great problem to have.
It would be.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what
we
I
had
was
to move
thinking.
it. That's
If we
right.
have to
Oh my
move it,
gosh.
we'll find another location for it, that's for sure.
That, and really, if that were the case, you know, that falls right into the recreation study for expanding, different areas in town too.
Yeah, and I think their philosophy too is to try and bring a different level to each park that's out there, so that, you know, it's not just, I know that sometimes in a way, we look at one park and put all our eggs in that one basket, but this way here, they're kind of spread it out. They're, you know, they're doing this birch one here, and which would take in for the people that live in that area, but not necessarily just them.
Yeah, and I think one of the things they keep focusing on is getting people out at different times than they normally would be out, like I said, rather than taking your kids to the park just on Saturday afternoon. Now this is, if you've got a playground and then some adult games in the same area, you could go out on a Thursday night. On the other side, I think they're trying to recruit for the Kinsmen and that as well, right, to get some more members, that sort of thing. But if they can start leagues and those sort of things, it gets people out in our community and using our parks during the week too.
It gives people an opportunity to try something totally different.
You betcha, and
You
you
know.
know, and again too, that's part of that participation, the, you know, the health and wellness foundations of philosophy, get out and get some exercise so that we don't all become sedentary and in our way, but, so Paul has made this motion, is there any other discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Great discussion though, folks. And it is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to the Kinsmen Frisbee Golf Public Works Participation.
So their request is obviously to have public works assistance to do this, being installing the posts, the pads and whatnot, and removing the hedge. Talked to Stu about this, and with everything, they had a timeline of trying to get this done before July 1st. There's absolutely no possibility that we can do that with the workload that they currently have. You've all seen what's happening on Main Street, what's happening at the pool. So we kind of broke this down after talking to Stu. He said, you know, he can try to make it work, but he said the original request from the Kinsmen Club was just to take the postal auger out there and auger 9 holes, and then it was done, and he figured he could do that fairly easily. Now it's, if they're pouring pads, those sort of things, that's a whole new level, and he's not sure exactly when the time will be that he'll have the availability of the crew to dig up all those 18 pads now, and that. So what we did is I worked with Stu to try to work the motion where if council would like to support this and would like Public Works to work with that they would just work with them as long as it doesn't conflict with other work, that they would do the time, or council could encourage the club if they want to get it done quicker in Public Works camp, that you could, that you support them going ahead with the work and the infrastructure, but there could be the suggestion to hire a contractor to get it done in a more timely fashion. So that's why we kind of put that either or in there for you, is Stu says, you know, he can auger the holes and things like that, but pouring the pads is another animal that takes quite a few days.
So have the Kinsmen been notified that they aren't going to be able to help?
I read the motion to Matt earlier, so he knows what you guys is in front of you this evening.
So did he offer any suggestions about doing an independent contractor?
They didn't at this point. They just kind of wanted to see how the conversation went. On the other side of this is, I guess, a good opportunity to bring up the washrooms with what the Kinsmen have put forward as well. I don't know if council wants to consider including in a motion the ability to, for them to place porta potties at, well, one at Birch Park and one at Centennial as well. Sorry, I don't have a more decisive motion for you, but it's open for.
The $1,200 for the porta potties, is that rental and cleaning and
And-
everything for both?
Oh, yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
So if they hired an independent contractor, would the club pay for it or would the town pay?
No, they're paying for all of the cement work and that. What they're asking for is our labor to do that. And Stu's saying right now, he can't commit to the labor from a time perspective unless it's later in the year.
To me, that all was, it sounds like we've put it back in their ballpark, saying, if you want it done by July 1st, you're gonna have to use an independent contractor. If you want to do it whenever we can, then yes,
Yeah.
maybe we would want to.
So, and that's where you could do the, and on that, you could do the motion and that, you also support doing it in a timely fashion, so if you wanna do that, you can hire a contractor.
Sorry. Go ahead, Michelle, yeah.
In terms of like, with the county, do we know in terms of like with partnering on the labor or something like that help at all, or is it just a wash?
For the county on doing work?
Yeah, like trying to kind of,
They, in the negotiations for the rec agreement, they basically pulled everything out of any green space that we have, so they're not even funding our green spaces anymore, so I don't know if approaching them for funding on something like this or for use of labor or anything would be well received.
Yeah, the Kinsmen Club might have better luck
Approaching them for funding.
on that, but, and I'm not trying to, I'm not sure if their public works has the same skill set. I know that this might sound terrible, but skill set to do concrete work as our guys have.
They don't pour sidewalks or.
Because most of their stuff is, their skill set, there's definitely, graveling roads and grading roads and building roads and.
Placing culverts,
Yeah,
those sort of things.
that's
that we
more
would
of their
never
skill
do.
set, not to say that they don't have people in there that have that ability, I'm not knocking, saying that, but I'm not sure, but, yeah. Anyway, Lyle, we had a thought or comment?
I was just gonna put on the floor the recommendation for the and/or that we do support the Kinsmen with this project. I think it's great. It's just with the short time frame. If we don't have the manpower right now, we just don't have the manpower. But if they can make it, if they can wait or
Hire somebody.
hire somebody, certainly support them.
So just do it as the first motion and the second is part of that. Okay.
Okay.
Would you like to make a separate motion following that, an independent one on the porta potty?
Sure, yeah, okay. So this one here, Lyle's moved this motion, any more discussion on? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. And it's carried unanimously. Okay, now we need a motion to allow the porta potties to be placed on those two.
Karen, you can just put placement of porta potties and we'll, that will be at Birch and Centennial.
Lyle,
I'll make that.
Okay, I don't know, if you were, I would.
And the wording of the motion is to allow the Kinsmen Club, the placement of.
okay,
So, and that's just gonna be one in each one?
One at each one, yeah.
and I think that's something that we need to long-term look at, what we can do, long-term for some of those parks that have a distance between the present facilities that we have. So, that's something the administration can deal with the public works. Lorna?
So when you made the motion that we are able to place one at each park, does that include covering the cost?
But that's the town, that I'm not clear on.
I was gonna say, you can do it either way. If we do the motion to allow the placement, allow the Kinsmen to place, then that puts the onus on the Kinsmen, and then I guess if they wanted us to pay for it, then they could request that, or if council wants to pay for it up front, then we would have to figure out where we allocate that from.
I was under, sorry, I was just kind of under the assumption that they were going to take care of that, or else look for sponsorship for that. I'm sure.
Yeah, and he did say that he was looking, when Matt and I talked, he did have interested parties that could contribute to that, so that hasn't been finalized. So if you grant permission to that, and then if they want us to pay for it, a
They'll
portion
come back.
of it, or that, then we can bring that back.
I just wasn't quite sure what it, well,
Thank you.
Does that work?
Okay,
Yeah, that works.
so is that fairly straightforward? We're going to allow the Kinsmen Club to place a porta potty on each of the 2 sites.
Making that motion.
Lyle did.
Lyle did?
Yep.
You need both.
Okay, any other discussion on it? Hearing none, we'll call the question. And it is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to committee reports. The Oldman Regional Services Commission Annual General Board of Directors meeting of January the 7th. Everybody should have had an opportunity to peruse it. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the Waste Commission's minutes. Okay. Moving on to the food bank meeting. Okay, moving on to FCS. Okay, moving on to Mayor and Reeves. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
no, I just was curious, food bank and FCSS for 2 different nights. Did you have a FCSS also on March 25th? Georgie, do you remember?
Yes, food bank doesn't meet as often as FCSS.
Right, I know, but usually they do both the same night, do they not?
Yes, I think it was just and we did do both that night, I think it was just an error on the date.
Oh, so, okay.
Peggy warned us that she really didn't want to be a secretary.
Sorry?
So Peggy warned us that she really didn't want to be a secretary, so.
Okay. That's fine. No, I was just kind of curious that they were a month apart, so.
We need to do some appointments for the FCSS as well, right?
Yes.
Okay, anything else on either one of those 2? Okay, if not, we'll move on to Mayor's Reeves. Okay, and then MPC. Okay, if not, we'll move on to the Recreation Committee. Okay, any question on any of those 7? Okay, if not, we'll ask for a motion to file the committee reports. Laura, thank you. Okay, any question or discussion on Laura's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to verbals. Councillor Taylor.
The only meeting I had was MPC and you just had it right there.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Paul? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to Councillor Vogt.
I had the recreation committee and Bonnie's got everything in her report that we talked about there. The only other thing that was quite a discussion was where the new sports field would go. And out of the three, if you read through her report, out of the three different places, we decided that Memorial Park would be the best bet for it. So I think that's the one that we're gonna try to push forward with, so. And that's all I have with the FCSS, the food bank, and the rec committee.
Any questions for George Lee? Hearing none, thank you very much. Moving on to Councillor Magnuson.
That's all I have. MPC, we have a meeting on the 1st, and we've got a MPC meeting tomorrow as well. And on the 3rd, I had a ORSC meeting via Zoom. They had, I think the first 15 people registered could have went to Lethbridge and sat in the meeting there, but I figured Zoom was fine, save on travel costs. And it actually went fairly well. Just a summary, we went through the budget. Last year was our second year of operational losses. There's a loss of about just over $82,000. However, the reserves are healthy. There's no debt. For 2021, there's no salary or benefit increase. And they've given us some bylaws to review for our next meeting, which will be September 2nd. They did have a presentation going over the new GIS maps, which are pretty interesting. I use the old ones quite a bit, so I need to frustrate myself a bit more with the new ones before I get the hang of those, but it's all progress. And they also had another demonstration on drones. You can get worse, they'll come out and do drone footage for you if you wanted to like promote the town, or I forget where it was. They were checking over their new swimming pool, and the drone was flying over areas which were hard to access, and they found a leak that way. So it was interesting how they can find that out as opposed to trudging around through the mud and stuff. So that's another option available to us if we ever so desire. So that was it for me.
Okay, any questions for Law? If not, thank you very much. Moving on to Councillor Thomas.
We had two library board meetings, one in regards to our favorite patron, who has now sent us a new letter, which I need to discuss with you after. And we had our regular library board meeting, which is basically the same as always, but we get to, today we opened for, I think it was 15% we could open at today. So, baby steps in the right direction. Hopefully before long we can get back to some programming.
So how many people is 15% of the capacity for library?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. I can find out and let you know.
Just curious.
Yeah. I'll have to ask Connie. That's a good question. So I don't know what the capacity is at the
Yeah,
library.
it's based on square footage and egress and digress, so, you know.
We haven't had to worry about it for so long that it might be a tough question to answer.
It's never been over capacity when I've been there.
Yeah, well, fair enough, but
Yeah, good question. Okay, anything else, Mark?
No.
Okay, any questions for Mark? Okay, hearing none, Councillor Roddy.
I have community features. Unfortunately, our current general manager Sarah Noyes is resigned. She did a lot of really amazing things with the board in the year that she was there, and completed a lot of really awesome projects that really benefited the whole program. So definitely sad to see her leave. So in the interim, they're actually appointing Ursula Sherwood, who's their senior business analyst, into the position on a interim basis, and they'll be reevaluated in 6 weeks, and then depending, might be a permanent move, which, I mean, Ursula, everyone's met from her coming and doing the community futures presentations, and she's always been a huge supporter of the communities and different community programs and the involvement and everything else. Just a really phenomenal gal, so very excited to see how that goes, and for Ursula to really have a chance to shine.
Okay, any questions from Michelle? Hearing none, thank you very much. Moving on to Councillor Armstrong.
Our Marcos Foundation at the end of the month was canceled, and part of that was we couldn't get a quorum, but the town meeting had moved to that night and just different things. Our annual general meeting will be on June 29th, and 3 of us sat down and helped do a business plan, which has to be in by the end of the month. And as usual, there have been several changes of protocol, so I just got another new one tonight or today, and I think that's just going to be the name of the game. And for the Vulcan County Health and Wellness Foundation, we have a new bookkeeper, Diane Kristolowicz, and right now, one of the committees is working on a joint use agreement with Alberta Health Services. And Gail is very busy with the county health challenge. And I think they've had really quite good response with it.
Yeah, I've heard over 200 team or
I think,
participants or something.
Yeah, quite a few.
Aren't we like number 4 or something crazy?
Oh, and that is to do with, shoot.
The participation.
Action, yeah, it just went off my mind. Yeah, you had, if you sign up for, and anybody can do it, whether you're in the challenge or not, to sign up for the participation, and I think it's, I'm gonna say $10,000, or is it 100,000? 100,000. That the community that has the most minutes, I guess, for people putting their, you can download the app and you put on any amount of time you do doing any kind of physical activity, and they list it and show you what you can do. Unfortunately, I see that Edmonton and Calgary are in there. Like, I don't think this is based on per capita, but there's Whitecourt, there's County of Painter and Vulcan, and we were in 3rd or 4th place, so we're doing quite well, but I'm not sure if we have to compete against Edmonton and Calgary, how we'll ever.
And who's that run through?
Sorry?
Like, who's that put on by?
Participation, which is, they've been in place since, forever, I think, yeah. So it'd be federal something. Participation, actually.
Yeah, it's, Bonnie put it in her report, points will be counted for both challenges. Most active community in Canada will win $100,000.
Yeah. And then we were 5th, then we were 4th, and then we were 3rd, and I don't know if we're back at 4th or not. It's worth a chance, who knows? But when I saw the Edmonton and Calgary's names listed as 1st and 2nd, I thought, that's not very fair. But nobody asked me, so.
Hopefully it's on a per capita base, so.
Yeah, I hope somehow they're doing it that way.
It's neat that we can.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it.
Any questions for Rhonda? Okay, thank you very much, appreciate that. I only had 2 meetings. I was supposed to do Mayors and Reeves, and unfortunately I was away, so I wasn't able to get internet service to Zoom in. And solid waste was canceled. And so I had a SEWA board meeting, and unfortunately Zoom technology wasn't at its best that day, and we ended up having to do couple of us have to do it on phone and phone in instead of zooming it in, because we just couldn't get it in on it for all of us, so. The board approved to hire HDR to do a proposal for, to build, operate, finance waste energy facility for us. And so they're going to shortlist it to two, and then those two will put their names into another category, and then they'll be vetted, and whoever's a successful one. But, you know, they have until October to get the shortlist down to two. So it's been opened, it's been advertised on 2 or 4 locations. I was gonna bring up this and tell you which 4 locations. That's the wrong one, let's talk employees, preferred sites. It's merx.com, and it's a international, worldwide bidding one. Alberta Purchasing Connect, bidco.com, and bids and tenders. So all the companies that we have interviewed have an opportunity to submit their information to this, and then they'll try and shortlist it from there. So they're hoping, the plans are to have it done before October, so hopefully in October we'll have 2 preferred vendors that potentially could build a facility. And again, it's depending on how they do it, so they do quite a vetting process on that.
So is this the one that's over by Brooks?
Yes, that's the site that is the
Site,
preferred site.
Yeah.
And then Vulcan County has is the second preferred site. So yeah, it was a pretty decent meeting, other than the disadvantage of not being able to get in on Zoom. And then I had a SAWA executive where we had a delegation that came that was in camera, and other than that, it was to tighten up the parameters for this REOI program that HDR is doing for SAWA. So it's moving forward. It's not moving forward in the direction that we wanted, but unfortunately,
It's fast.
it's moving forward. And that's it for me. Any questions? If not, oh, sorry.
No, sorry, I just forgot to mention that I took my ARB training course again. And that it was, we had to do it on Zoom this time, which was a lot harder, because you don't have everybody in the room that you can ask questions to. So I passed it, I've been recertified for another 3 years.
Good.
Yeah.
So that means that you're running in the fall. Okay, sounds good.
She didn't even catch that.
Pardon me?
She didn't catch what he
I
said.
know what you said.
But you don't have to be an elected official.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay, well.
So she did listen to that part of the course. You passed that portion of the exam?
Yeah, you can just be an average citizen and sit on
Yeah.
that board, so.
I appreciate you taking the course. Okay, anything else on council reports? If not, somebody wish to move him? Wow. Any question or discussion on Lyle's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. And it is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to activities. Action list.
So we accomplished everything on the from the last meeting, and there is a bunch of this of the other pages that are going to be falling off right away. We took care of a couple this evening with the natural gas franchise and the planning of the grand opening of the pool. Yeah, so unless there's any questions on anything outstanding, we're gonna have, again, we're gonna have a bunch that are gonna drop off here in the next 2 weeks. And of course, course, the ones that are gonna be on there for quite some time, like the bird of prey, those sort of things.
Any questions on any of those ones? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the CEO's report.
Very straightforward. I oriented and went through our personnel policies with the new staff members, been helping them get set up with the computers, their passwords, getting them in. Rita and Nancy jumped both feet into, we actually have, as the members of the MPC are quite aware, we've had quite a few inquiries on the development side, so it's a good time for Rita to be doing her training. Both Rita and Gabby started on June 1st, so they're 2 weeks into it. Things seem to be going very well. Nancy's planned her last day for the 25th. Again, with the COVID restrictions, we would love to be able to do a nice retirement party for her, but we don't know what that looks like right now, so it may just be a simple staff thank you and wishing well with the move. Normal business I had, things of interest is the county has started asking questions now for water allocations for, they're trying to work on the agreements for recreation for the water servicing, so that was good to hear. They did send over some sewer capacity, some revised sewer capacity stuff for their industrial subdivision that I've passed on to SEMA Plus, and Arlen has said that he will do a detailed report for council with some recommendations on these new capacities, what impact they would have on our facilities if you were to accept them. I did send out emails on this, but I put it in my report that the painting of the concession building, the timing on that, Stu received a quote. We are going to bring it to council for this meeting. They felt that the timeline was really close on that to actually get it done before July 1st. We mentioned it to the Lions Club and they said send it over. They had a meeting that evening, so we sent the quotes over to them and they agreed to fund that. And so, as you've all seen, the gazebo and the concession building have been painted to match the new building. And we stood outside and joked about it, and I guess, you know, I use Tom as an example. The hard time is we give architects and engineers and things like that. Nobody from our community, I think, would have stood in front of that place and went, charcoal and lime green, that should work. You know, but it really does look nice and matches the new building. So I guess that's why those guys get paid for their vision. So
Actually, I was down Lethbridge today and I was surprised the number of buildings had that type of coloration.
that lime green. Yeah, so through that, we did obviously the finalized approvals, and we've paid out all the holdbacks, so we're pretty much complete on the pool project. So we're going to move forward with the borrowing process to clean up our line of credit, we've got everything. We'll bring it back to council with the final numbers, but it's looking like we're going to be under budget a little bit. But so, and we'll keep moving from there. Formal meetings that I had, obviously, going to be, and I don't know if council wants me to report the MPC with me taking on the development officer role. I don't know if you want me to put on, because it's just going to be taken for granted that I'll be attending the MPC meetings, but I will just add them to my CAO report rather than submitting a development officer report. And what we'll do is we'll move from a development officer to a development clerk, so then it's just a summary of the permits and stuff that we're putting through. So I keep attending the municipal leaders for COVID WebEx stuff, and changes every week. So. And had an interesting conversation with the Whispering Willows, one of the developers out there who is inquiring on trying to get a development agreement possibly together for that agreement. So hopefully we'll see something that will come to council in the not too far future. For those of you that know, it was the original developer that was contacting. So.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
if this falls under here or not, but that email that you sent out about FCSS, the rural person, is that something that we should be taking part in, or?
And
are
I
you gonna take part, or?
I just put that out there. It was conflicting with something that I had on
I
that
think
day.
that was
but-
June 23rd or something.
Yeah, yeah.
I just wanted
And
to
she
get
just
that.
asked that I pass that on to council for. I felt that Georgia Lee probably had a little bit more information on it, probably from your meeting, or,
No, Jen didn't really talk a lot about it, she just kind of skimmed over, it didn't seem like it was anything of great importance or anything.
okay.
Oh, okay, I just thought when they, yeah. okay.
And it was one of those things that came to me and asked to pass on to council, so I just wanted to make sure that you guys all had that information. So that was my report, unless there's any other questions.
Okay, hearing none, well, we'll move on to the
Nancy's
development
fine.
officers. This should be her last, one of her last, I guess.
She told me I was doing the next one, so.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah. So one of the ones, the big things that Nancy would like council to be aware of is the application from ExploreNet for the tower on the residence on First Avenue. And as councilors that have been aware, that have been through this before, we don't, the town gets the same amount of input as any of the neighboring properties. The CRTC regulates these towers, so we just provide feedback. So we will have Orsk represent the town on this from a planning standpoint and provide feedback to the open house, and we'll go from there. The overall tower itself doesn't look offensive. The biggest concern from an administration standpoint would be the location to the helipad
Absolutely.
for the hospital.
I would imagine that they would have some, because I mean, it is on a flight now and, you know, either way in, but
Yeah,
it's not that high.
so yeah, that it's 30 meters. And so being that it's adjacent to the hospital property, they will be providing feedback as well. So, and that's the only thing administratively that we could see on that was the location too. Because I don't believe it's much higher than the one that's at the Tri-Service.
It is,
Is it?
yeah, because that one's only less than 100, and this one's 145, so.
Oh, okay.
It's, it is substantially higher. Not that,
Okay.
for an airplane, it's not a problem, but
But for a helicopter. it's a-
helicopter coming in. But again, you know, AHS would, I would assume, would get a copy of this.
And again, Nancy wanted to put the notice in about the subdivision being approved, and I believe that the appeal period is done now, is it not?
Okay, anything else on Nancy's?
Just for, I guess we'll deal with it tomorrow at the MPC meeting. There is, one of the applications for 102A Service Road Southwest.
It's a B?
It's a B.
Yeah, there was a typo, and we'll clarify that tomorrow on the application and amend it accordingly.
Okay,
Nancy caught that this morning.
anything else on? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the Public Works.
I'm sure all of you have seen the work going on Main Street and the new trees that have gone in. They're hoping to get the cement work done this week for a good portion of it. Seems to be going fairly well. They had to hydrovac and when they're pulling those old stumps out because the electrical lines for the street lights are all twisted in there as well, so that's why you saw the hydrovac there. And they're also working on the landscaping, the pool and the irrigation. And yeah, it's coming along.
And on the landscaping at the swimming pool, for those that don't know, I had some discussion with Stu, and anybody that's ever operated a swimming pool doesn't think that you'd like to have grass, dirt, sand, gravel, rocks within a quarter mile of the swimming pool. Trees are offensive too. So we had a huge discussion because on the north side of the fence, it was discussed that there was gonna be landscaping rock. But the problem with rocks is they have a tendency to be picked up, thrown over the fence and into the pool. And then what ends up happening is that there's nothing in the pool. If the pool is empty, it damages the liner. And then there's a cost to repair that. Whereas if there's water in it, it just makes a splash. But every swimming pool that I've ever been involved in, even inside a building, I've seen rocks inside a pool. So, you know, we had some discussion, and I mentioned to Stu, maybe there was some other method, even though, you know, the slope, you know, is fairly broad there, so, but they decided to try grass again for a while, and I don't know.
He said if the Lions Club are still interested in doing the planters along there as well, that they would level paths and put the planters in there. He did have some conversations after speaking with Tom with Western Rec, and there was one facility in particular that did landscape rock all the way around the entire thing, and Western Rec comes back every year and repairs at least 4 breaches in their liner. So after Stu heard that, being a brand new pool and as much liner space as we have in ours, he kind of said, you know what, I can put some dirt in there and grow some grass. So, even though he didn't want grass
yeah,
in there.
And again, I mean, so that's why, because we have discussed it at this table, why, and I just wanted to explain why that I felt that.
They changed it again.
And I said to Stu, it's your facility, do what you wish, but I'm just telling you what I was told from another couple facilities, and so obviously it's been changed, but.
The only other thing of note on that is some of the caulking came out of the water slide, so they were shut down for a couple of days. Western Rec was here within a day and had it repaired. So.
Okay, anything else on Stu's?
He did want me to mention and to bring up, he added the equipment on the end of this report. You've probably seen that we've had a couple times where the grass has gotten pretty long in our parks, and the reason being is his Cub Cadet was out for 10 days, the X-Mark was out for 7 days, and all based on the availability of parts. But we've never had to wait for parts that long for our equipment, which is why we buy them locally. As he says in his report, they're all blaming it on COVID. So. And I think Tom lives in that world as well, so he kind of understands it. But
6 to 8 months for a part is not out of a reasonable rate at the moment.
If you are getting questioned from a taxpayer on why the grass or why our mowers may happen to be down for any extended time, it is the availability of parts. You know, you bust one of the main spindles for one of the mower blades. It used to be 24 hours we'd have a new one in and going, and now it can be upwards of a week to wait for a part. One of the advantages of keeping the cost down by only running 3 mowers, we only have 3 mowers. So when they're shut down it's pretty substantial. So I told Stu that I would mention that to council.
Okay, anything else on Stu's? Do we still think that annual spring and fall cleanup is worth it? I mean, I personally think it is, but.
Yes. So, and I can, administratively, we get a ton of positive feedback on it. From some people that are very vocal in our community. One of them is an ex-RCMP officer who lives in the Allen subdivision that many of you talk to fairly regularly. He phoned and actually complimented on that service. And to be completely honest, if the majority of people in town are using it for the intended purpose of, if you don't have a truck or you don't physically have the ability to get this to the transfer station, that's what it's meant to do. And for the most part, in talking to Stu, it does take quite a few man hours to do it, obviously the 128, but the majority of people aren't taking wild advantage of it the way they used to. Now the first year that I did it, we got called to empty out a running truck that was just full of junk because the guy didn't want to, he could have just started up the truck and drove it to the dump, but didn't. He had us take all the stuff out of the back of his truck. So that stuff isn't happening anymore. Best example is one of the neighbors here actually stopped me on the way home. He was intending on hauling the stuff for himself, but the guys picked it up on their way by, and he actually wanted to make sure to pass that along to him, that he really appreciated that. So we do get a lot of positive feedback. It is something I know, as town foreman, I wished every year council would review it, but yeah, the feedback from the public is really good with that.
Okay, anything else on the stews? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to community services managers.
So the tourist center is open at limited capacity, and we got approval for that in the beginning of June from AHS based on the retail component of the center. So we're losing revenue from not being able to perform the retail side, so they allowed us to open. And so we've had staff in there getting, but again, same thing on the resale side, trying to get merchandise is challenging right now as well. The majority of the stuff we get comes out of the States. The pool bookings have been right full. As anytime that there's an opening that comes up, it's usually picked up within 30 minutes and rebooked. So, and
So with that,
we are down one senior guard, so they're shuffling things around. They have an ad in the paper for, we're trying to get word out as far as they can to try to get another senior guard in place. And so that's limited on staff, so what they're doing is they're working with AHS for placement of, and they can have volunteer shallow end attendants that don't have to have full certification. So they're working on that. It'll get a lot easier when the kids get out of school, because then we'll have some junior guards in place. But for right now, the way it's working, just to have enough people there to keep open for our bookings, both Channing and Bonnie are putting in shifts at the front desk there to make sure that we have the proper amount of staff in there. So that's been a bit of a challenge right now.
so that's partly why we haven't opened up some of it, is because of staffing then?
Yes, yeah.
Because that's not what some of the,
Facebook things are saying?
well, I don't know, I don't read Facebook, so that's what some of the residents have been told, that it's a COVID issue. It has nothing to do with the staffing issue, so.
I actually got a complaint that I dealt with earlier this week and clarified that for that purpose, because they were under the understanding that it was an AHS restriction thing. It was a staffing. So it was a suggestion by AHS to lower the amount of hours because of staffing.
I was hoping that we would expand the hours so we'd have more opportunities to have private bookings and other things in there to utilize the facility as much as we can. But if it's a staffing issue, then that's a different situation.
And right now it's purely staffing. We lost 3 senior guards to different jobs. One went to Pitcher Butte, one went to Champion, and one took another job somewhere else.
So were those 3 that we supported last year?
Yes.
So that's really great that we supported them last year and held them on to take on a position in our facilities.
Yes. That's where the disappointment is.
Okay. Go
I
ahead.
know before it was just lessons was what the capacity was. With the new restrictions, is it actually open, like, to public swim on a regular basis, or is that gonna be just the grand opening one?
No, so we have to wait till stage 3 to do public swim. So right now it's swim club. So what swim club allows is keep children of the same age that are already in a cohort in groups to go into the pool and to do, there's a short lesson component to it. And then the rest are family bookings is what we're doing. We had to eliminate, and that's what Tom was probably mentioning, is that we had the group bookings that were from 12 till 1, and because of the amount of staff that we have on Saturday and Sunday, we had to cancel all of those up until the end of June so that we could do the family bookings and keep as many of them as we could. Family bookings work out better for the pool because with the change in restrictions that happened last week, we can now have 20 per family, and we're allowed to have 2 families in there at a time. So we're allowed to basically have 40 people in the facility at a time. One family uses one half of the pool with the water slides, while the other family uses the zero beach entry, the play features, and the hot tub for half, and then halfway through the hour they switch. And that's how they're allowed to keep the physical distancing and that sort of thing. And really what it comes down to now is that that's why Bonnie and Channing are there working shifts, and they're just trying to get somebody hired so that we can open up more spaces. So far, the only thing we've had to cancel in the schedule is that private booking from 11 to 12.
Are we still doing early morning yet, or like we're at 6 in the morning, or?
During the week, yeah.
Like,
It's not the weekend.
Okay,
So there's a moms and tots program that's also going on, and some lane swim, but all of those things have to be, according to the restrictions, all have to be pre-booked, and everybody needs to be accounted for contract tracing purposes. So if somebody cancels, you can't just fill that spot with another person, so you had to book that spot for X amount of time. It's been really challenging.
and then on that one chart here, sorry everybody, but where it says 6990, what's that mean? Like under swim, yeah, you're on, it says swim club, it says 6919, and it says swimming lessons 420/575.
Okay, so I believe it's 69 out of the 90 available spots, and
Okay,
420 out of the 575 spots have been filled.
okay,
I think this is the filled capacity, yeah, AquaFit. So 8 out of 8 for the parents and tots, 11 in AquaFit, 18 lined up for 3 sessions of lane swim, 420 of the 575 lesson
Okay.
spots are, and 69 of the 90 swim club spots are.
okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure exactly what
And
that meant.
I think that, I'm not 100% sure, but I'll check with Bonnie to be sure, but I think the gap in the swim club thing is because the kids have to be of the same age, so you need this many 9 and 10-year-olds, and you need this many 11 and 12-year-olds. So, in the schools that they've been through fairly regular, one of their big concerns this week and why they're in there working those shifts and is they don't want to cancel any of the school swimming that's coming, because of course this is the time when Milo and Arrowwood and all them are using the pool this week, so, as well, so. Yeah, it's been a challenge.
Just wondering if you get any feedback on this tourism agreement.
I haven't heard a whole bunch.
Because, tried to do a new sign for a new location, and we can't use the spaceship, even if it's got our outlet or something.
Really? Under our new agreement?
That's what I've been informed, and I got an email called forwarded to me from
Right.
Bonnie and I, because I've got them on our sign in our present location and do real estate signs and business cards. So I went to do one for, it's gonna be our new
New
location, and told we can't use a spaceship.
From Viacom.
So I'm wondering, what does that mean for
Golf
existing
course.
signs? For
Yeah,
existing-
because she tried to cover everything in there, like she's got lawn ornaments to cover the golf course for their little tee markers and that, so. Well, let me look into it and find out, because yeah, it was supposed to be all inclusive for anything that we needed. So,
Yeah, 'cause I'm-
I'm just wondering if your business doesn't fall under the town's agreement, so I'll have to clarify that.
Yeah, because I'd like to, this close to ordering a new sign, and I'm like, well, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure, because it looks cool, it promotes Star Trek, but if we can't use it,
Yeah, for sure.
that would be.
And that's my only, that would be my, and that's what I'll have to look into, is whether your agreement, or like whether your business could use the town's agreement. Is I think probably what the hang up is,
Okay.
so. But that's my guess without looking into it very far.
Okay, thank you.
on the bodies? Okay, moving on to the, sorry, the fire, my mouse won't move. Okay, so on this one here too, is the first set of numbers last year's?
I
And
don't
the
know,
second-
I saw that they were conflicting.
Yeah, and the numbers don't add up,
Right.
right?
If you look at the next months too, they're not even close to what the month before were.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it was just a, again, click and paste or what happened.
Yeah.
But for the county and the town to have 9 each for first response, that's pretty high.
No,
But I guess, I don't know,
I don't know.
I was just looking at the other 2 and they were down a bit.
See, yeah,
But maybe that isn't, I just assumed that was last year's and maybe I shouldn't have.
like April's was the 2 and the 3, and
Yeah.
then which was identical to the supposedly last
see,
year's.
May seems to make a little bit more sense, but the numbers are different than April's.
Yeah.
May makes a lot more sense call-wise.
But you're right, Laura, the first response then medical, it's just like, go from 1, 3 and 1 and to 12 and 13 and 9 and 9. And especially,
They
first
must be
response
really
is-
busy.
Yeah.
First response is only supposed to be on, especially COVID is only supposed to be on, on Delta calls, so.
The other thing of note is that it looks like they've dropped 5 members.
Yeah, from 1 month to the
To the
next.
It just says that it's on retirement.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were that old.
But they are still back to doing training.
Okay, any questions on Mike's report? Okay, hearing none, somebody wish to move the administration reports? Ma? Any comments or discussion on Ma's motion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. It is carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to the last motion. Michelle, thank you. Call the question, those in favor of adjournment?
We just about couldn't go home last time.
I was gonna say, what did you guys do last meeting?
They were gonna
Sat
vote,
down.
Sat here, and finally 11 o'clock came around and they made a motion not to keep going.
We thought, oh, where is Michelle? We need her. Thank you very much, everybody. So you still driving back and forth every day, Michelle?
Just sign out.
Yeah.
Which way do you go?
Sorry?
Which way do you head?
So going south on 23 and then over at, the Monarch.
Yeah, crown on there.
Yeah.
And then you cut across and going that way into.
It's actually a really nice drive early in
It
the
is,
morning.
there's some beautiful
Very,
houses down that valley, isn't there?
nice.
Well, and then